Hey guys, welcome to another online math class. This video will be about slopes or gradients of linear graphs, and by the end of this lesson we should be able to determine if a slope is positive or negative, be able to find the slope using rise over run, and also be able to use that final formula as well. So just pause the video here and take a couple of minutes to write these down. Alright, so starting off with what a slope or gradient is. So it's a key feature of a straight line graph, and it shows us or tells us how steep it is. And once again, it's called the gradient or the slope. These two words are used interchangeably, so they just mean the same thing. Alright, so if you have a look at these three graphs, A, B, and C, we can see how they all have different slopes there. So we can see A is the steepest, while C has the gentlest slope. So if you have a look at these two hills here, you can see how they have different slopes as well. One is steeper than the other. So if we look at them a bit closer, we can see that the hill on the left side is less steep than the one on the right. So if we drew it in, it will look something like that. So if you were climbing up this hill, the hill on the right, the steep one will be harder to climb up, and that first one will be a bit easier. So if we put a number to how hard it will be, we might say this is about a difficulty, the one on the left, we might say it's about a difficulty of, let's say 3, just make some numbers up, and let's say this one's about 7. So we can see this one has a higher degree of difficulty, whilst this one's a bit easier. Look at the numbers. So that goes with the graphs as well. It's not really about difficulty, but the steeper the graph is, the higher the number will be. And the less steep it is, the lower the number of the gradient or the slope will be. So that's just one way we can remember that. So that's what gradients or slopes are, how steep a straight line graph is or a linear graph. Let's go into some of these now. We can see some gradients on the left and some on the right. The graphs on the left, they all have positive gradients. So this means the graph goes up from left to right. So if we start on the left, all these lines go up when you go left to right, something like that. The one on the graphs on the right, they all have negative gradients. They go down from left to right. So that's just a pattern we need to know as well. In addition to that, you can have graphs with the same gradient. So they've got the same slopes there, but they go through different points. Just something to remember for later on this topic. If they've got the same gradient and they go through different graphs, they will never touch each other. So they are called parallel lines there. Alright, so now we know some key features of the gradient. Let's have a go at finding the gradient. So when determining the gradient, we've got a straight line graph. We're just going to choose any 2 points on the straight line. That could be anywhere on the graph. And we're going to call them A and B for this purpose. So as we go from A to B, think about you climbing up that. We go from point A to B. We go up, that's the rise, and we also go across, that's called the run. And the slope is just found how far up we go, so the rise, and how far across we go, and divide those two. So we're going to divide the rise by the run. Alright, so let's have a go at doing a question involving that. So we've got this line here, find the slope of the line through the points 1, 4, and 4, 8. So this one's already chosen our points for us. We could have, if we really wanted to, chose completely different ones. We could have chosen something like that as well. But let's just go with the points they've given us. So once again, it's 1, 4, and 4, 8. So if we have a look there, our rise, we're going up 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. So slope or the gradient equals the rise, which is 4, and the run, we're going across 1, 2, 3, as it tells us there. So the gradient for this one, you could keep it as 4 over 3, that will be fine. Or you could write it as a decimal, and to 2 decimal places it will be 1.33. Alright, let's have a go at another one. So that was a positive slope. So this one will be negative. It's going down from left to right. So let's find the slope of this line. It goes from point 0, 10 and 4, 2. It's picked out 2 points for us again. So in this case, once again, slope equals the rise over the run. So let's go rise. It's going down this time. So my rise is going to be a negative value. It tells us here, but let's have a look. If we're going to this place, we're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So down is represented with a negative, so it's down 8. And we're going to the right, so that's still positive. If you're going to the left, that'll be negative. But we're going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So that's my rise, that's my run. Divide the 2 and you get value of negative 2. Alright, so there's also another formula we can use. So the rise of a run works every time, but there's just a bit of a shortcut. So we don't want to be counting how far across and how far up or down we move each time, because that might take a while depending on the numbers you're given. Alright, so let's go through the shortcut method. I personally prefer this method as well. So our first step, after we picked our 2 points, is to label the coordinates of point A, x1, y1. Then for point B, we're going to label them x2, y2. Once you've done that, we've got this formula. Slope equals y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. Once you've got that, we can see that rise is just pretty much y2, y1. If I start there and subtract that, that shows me how far up or down I'm moving. Same with the run. If I got x2 and x1 there, if I find the difference, that just shows me how far across I'm moving. So that's where this formula comes from. And you'll just replace y with the relevant coordinates. Alright, let's have a go at doing a question that involves this. So over here, find the slope of the line through the points 1, 7, and 4, 2 using the formula for the slope of the line. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Alright, so it doesn't matter which one I label A or B. I'm just going to call that A and that B. So slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's call this one x1, y1. And let's call this x2, y2. So it doesn't matter once again which order you have that there. So y2 here. y2, I'll label this on y2, so that will be y2 there. So that's 2 minus y1, which is 7, over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 1. Once you've got that, we're just going to work that out. You can use a calculator, that's fine, but 2 minus 7 gives me negative 5, 4 minus 1 gives me 3. So once you're up to here, you can keep your answer like that, negative 5 over 3, that's fine, or you can put that in your calculator and work that out. And if you round that to 1 decimal place, that gives you 2 decimal places, sorry, that gives you negative 1.67. And just to quickly check your answer, we know our gradient has to be negative because it's going from left to right, going down from left to right. So if you got a positive value somehow, you would know that you made a mistake somewhere. So just a couple different graphs you might see. You might see graphs like this on the left and that on the right. That's completely horizontal and that's completely vertical. So the one on the left, this one's actually called a zero gradient or slope. So our gradient for this would just be 0. So if it asks you what the gradient for that is, just write 0. For this one on the right, vertical lines, this one actually has an undefined gradient or the slope is undefined. So if the question asks you what is the slope for a graph like this, you'll write undefined. Alright, so just a quick recap. We have positive ones that go up from left to right, negative ones that go down from left to right, 0, that's completely horizontal, and completely vertical is undefined. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully by now we have a better understanding of how to determine if a slope is positive or negative, can use the rise over run formula to find the slope, and can also use this one to find the slope as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all back online.